of the Quran. I would like to ask all our brothers and sisters to silence their mobile and listen to the recitation of the Holy Quran so that Allah can bless us. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب
Qari Sahib Shafiqullah, who recited a few verses from the Holy Quran. May I start by, it's going to be an official now, by welcoming everyone here. It's an annual gathering of the Afghan community in Scotland. Sadly, Afghans are scattered around the world. We are probably the second largest refugee community, not only in Scotland but in so many other countries. But we are very proud to be in this country and to make Scotland our home. And we are very proud of the people here and the country, the culture, the background, and the many supports and assistance and help we get from the Scottish government and so many other individuals, and above all the Scottish people. It's not going to be political speeches because politics are quite boring, although we have politicians among us, but I would like to invite the chair of Scottish Afghan Society.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Scottish Afghan Society, I would like to thank you all for coming today to celebrate this day together. I would like to wish you all a very happy Eid, and I hope that all of our fast and prayers are accepted. This is a very special time for us, and events like today has taken place because we as a society have come together and worked well with each other. Continuing to do this will allow us to plan greater social events and gatherings in the future. Finally, the Scottish Afghan Society aims to work with all other communities on a social aspect for us all to come together. د ټولونه د مخه د مشرانو په اجازه او بیا د کشرانو په اجازه د لوی دربار څخه هیلهمند یم چې تاسې روژې عبادتونه د خدای قبول کړي. او په دوهم قدم کې باید ووایم چې پروردګار دې زموږ په وطن کې صلح راوړي تر څو زموږ ټول مظلوم ملت په همدغسې د امنیت په فضا کې خپل عیدونه تجلیل کړي. په درېیم قدم کې باید ووایم چې سکاټش افغان سوسایټي 14 کاله دمخه په 2001 کې چې کله تاسیس شوله او هغه وخت چې تاسیس شوله زموږ ملګری مرحوم عبدالمالک ته خدای وبخي ما ته ټلیفون وکړ چې تاسې راشئ چې دلته د افغانانو دپاره یوه سوسایټي جوړه کړو. هغه وخت انګلیسي لغات موږ نه استعمالوه، اتحادیه د افغانانو جوړه کړو. په 2001 کې دا اتحادیه موږ جوړه کړله او په د 14 کلونو کې هر ټیم چې دی اتحادیې ته راغلی دی، سوسایټي ته راغلی دی، د زړه د کوم نه یې د خپلو خلکو او د ملت دپاره کار کړی دی. او دا باید ووایو چې دا سوسایټي ولې ایجاد شوله، د دې انګېزه څه وه؟ موږ من حیث د یو قوم ضرورت درلوده چې دغسې یوه اتحادیه یوه سوسایټي دلته ولرو، تر څو د نورو قومونو سره یو ځای هغه خپل هویت نورو قومونو ته وروښیو. او همچنان څرنګه چې دلته موږ نوي مهاجر وو او وکړی شو، تر څو د سکاټلند حکومت هم خپل هویت وښیي چې موږ من حیث د یو قوم دلته په 2001 کې اکثریت افغانان دلته اکثریت مهاجرین دلته راغلل. او په همغه ورځ باندې ما د افغانانو ته خبرې وکړې، د همغه مجلس مشري د ما په غاړه وه. ما په ټولو افغانانو باندې غږ وکړ چې دغه اتحادیه یا انجمن چې موږ جوړوو د دې هدف د دې دپاره دی چې موږ هغه خپل اصلي هویت او قومیت په دې ملک خلکو ته ثابت کړو. خو پس په دا 14 کلونو کې چې کوم ټیمونه دلته راغلي دي، په کار یې کړی، په اخلاص یې کار کړی دی، د خپلو خلکو دپاره، د خپل ملت دپاره، او هر یوه په خپل نوبت دا کار کړی دی. خو زه دا خبره په ډاګه باندې کوم چې سوسایټي وظیفه دا ده چې د خپلو خلکو دپاره اجتماعي، کلتوري او په اصطلاح علمي نور پروګرامونه جوړ کړي. خو زه باید ووایم چې موږ په وس د دې چې دومره کارونه په 14 کلونو کې کړي دي، خو موږ بیا هم په دې نه یو موافق شوي چې موږ یو موافقه هغه وبوسو، په اصطلاح یو قوم وبوسو. په دې خاطر زه درته وایم چې په 14 کلونو کې حتی موږ یو 3 ځوان پولیس افسر په دې ملک کې نه لرو، یا یو 2-3 هغسې محصلین چې د طب نه فارغ شوي چې د اجتماع او د خلکو دپاره خدمت وکړه، موږ نه لرو. خو زه بیا هم په ځوانانو باندې غږ کوم چې ځوانانو تاسې ځان سره منسجم کړئ، راشئ او په دغه سوسایټي او په دغه اتحادیه کې کار وکړئ، او د آینده دپاره دغه سوسایټي تاسې ده چې زه اوس په دغه مریضۍ او په د سپینه ایره باندې تاسو ته اخته یم. بهتره به دا وه چې دلته یو ښه ځوانان ولاړه او دا کار یې په مخ بولئ.
And thank you so much for inviting me along this evening. I have been along before in many guises, as community activist, as councillor, as MSP, and now as Bailey, so welcome to you all. But I don't think I'm to be trusted because I've been given a written speech to read out. So, good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Lord Provost and the people of Glasgow, thank you for inviting me to your Eid party to mark the end of your fasting. I'm proud to say that Glasgow is a city of many cultures, and that it is, and many faiths, as well as a secular society. Immigrants helped forge this city's distinctive character across the centuries, its outlook and its traditions and cuisine. From the Irish and Italians to recent settlers from Africa and Asia, people from all over the world can now say they belong to Glasgow. Good evening, Cabinet Secretary. And that's one of this city's great strengths, our multiculturalism. A multiculturalism that is by far most evident in our schools, where more than 100 languages are spoken. It is truly wonderful that our children are able to learn and play and live together so harmoniously. I am proud to belong to a welcoming and tolerant city that embraces and values all its citizens. I also wish to pay a tribute to the resilience of your countrymen and women in Afghanistan who continue to struggle and suffer. I'm sure your thoughts are with them all this evening though. But tonight is a celebration a celebration of the social and economic contribution that Afghans have made, what they have made here in Glasgow and Scotland, a celebration of the end of Ramadan. It's wonderful to join you all and be given this opportunity to experience your rich culture and heritage. Enjoy your celebrations and thank you for them.
Barak to you all. I'm greatly honoured to be one of your invited guests at tonight's celebration. And I know that the past month has been a time of reflection, a time of renewal and a time of improvement for you all. And that tonight provides a great opportunity for you all to come together to celebrate the bonds of family and the bonds of friendship. And I've always been struck by the particular challenges of observing Ramadan in Scotland. Our geography and our weather, it makes it a demanding period for you both physically and mentally. But I also know that it enables you to reflect upon the challenges that many people across the world experience all year round, the challenges of poverty, hunger and inequality. And as Barack Obama recently said, inequality is the defining challenge of our time. Modern Scotland is a multi-faith and multicultural society, one based on mutual trust, respect and understanding. And we have worked very hard alongside yourselves over many years to ensure that this is the case. And the Scottish Government very much values and appreciates the relationships it has with Scotland's Muslim communities, and we warmly welcome their contribution to our nation's civic life. Scotland's faith communities play a significant role in Scotland and indeed abroad, supporting many of our most vulnerable and disadvantaged communities. And we greatly value that crucial role in promoting social justice and that role in transforming and in saving lives. But we know that misunderstanding continues to exist within society about different faiths, and that acts as a barrier to us truly being one Scotland with many cultures. And that's why we work to promote interfaith dialogue, to strengthen and enhance connections across communities, to lower barriers, eliminate fear, to eliminate distrust, and to increase understanding and our mutual respect. People of all faiths and none must be supported to follow their own way of life without fear of discrimination. And I know that this is an anxious time for some of you. The recent atrocities in Manchester and London have led to some seeking to scapegoat the Muslim community for those events. So let me be clear that scapegoating is utterly, utterly unacceptable, and it must always be called out for what it is. Because the toxic language that we sometimes hear and read in the media can only serve to divide communities, to condone prejudice and encourage hatred and abuse. And it needs to stop. And the Scottish Government stands with Scotland's Muslim communities just as we stand with all of Scotland's communities. Too many in the Muslim world continue to experience discrimination and abuse. And that is why earlier this month I brought forward an ambitious programme of action to better tackle hate crime and support community cohesion. And in seeking to tackle these issues, we want to make sure that your voice is heard and that this government addresses the issues that matter to you. Because what's really important here is making progress towards our vision of one Scotland with many cultures, where everyone has equality of opportunity and the communities all flourish. And I believe that if we stand united against those who would divide us, then we can continue on this journey. And that requires calling out hatred and abuse. But it also, friends, requires us to celebrate the contributions and the tremendous diversity that exists within communities the length and breadth of Scotland at events such as this. And I want to draw my remarks to a close by quoting the political philosopher John Rawls, who said, "A just society is one where if you knew everything about it, you'd be willing to enter it at a random place. In other words, you'd choose to join this just society, no matter who you are or where you are born. And we celebrate the fact that people of all faiths and nationalities have, in the recent or the distant past, have chosen Scotland. And the Scotland we seek is a just Scotland where diversity is embraced, where we all feel that shared sense of belonging, where we can all learn to live and grow together. A Scotland where people can live their lives in peace and be free to make the positive contributions economically, socially, culturally to the fabric of our society, to our Scotland, to our one Scotland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asif. Eid Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, first of all, I want to thank Muhammad Asif, who has been a tremendous role model and an advocate for human rights. I've known Asif as well. I think it is 17 years. I knew him from when he first arrived as an asylum seeker in the city 17 years ago, and arrived in Saitil. And he hasn't changed very much, apart from the fact he has a few wrinkles and he's hiding the fact that he doesn't have much hair anymore. But then, when I met him 17 years ago as now, he has never been fearful of speaking out for human rights and for justice and for humanity. And on each and every occasion he has stood up for the Afghan community, or for every community that arrived as new citizens in this country. Now, brothers and sisters, for this month, the holy month of Ramadan, has probably been one of the most difficult for the Muslim community in recent years. We've seen terror attacks take place in Manchester, we've seen attacks in London, in Finsbury Park Mosque, we've seen attacks take place in Kabul, in Afghanistan, in Lahore, in Pakistan, and we've seen people die in the fire at Grenfell Towers, and we know now that they died because they were poor. On the question of terrorism, what I say the purpose of terrorist attacks in this country, as in Afghanistan, as in Pakistan and other countries around the world, is to demoralize people. It's to demoralize the people that the terror attacks are aimed at, is to erode and to degrade their humanity, and what they want to do is to drive us apart. They want to sow suspicion, they want to sow fear, and in this country, whether they are the supporters of Daesh or whether they're supporters of the far right, the purpose of these extremists is exactly the same. It's to force us apart, it's to replace our freedoms with security, and they want us to answer them with bombs and bullets of our own. And if this happens, then the terrorists have won. We have to do the exact opposite each and every occasion, even though it might be difficult. We defy them by proving that we are not who they want us to be. We saw that proof in abundance, whether it was in London, whether it was in Manchester, as emergency services rushed to save lives, not knowing if they were next. We saw that as Muslim and non-Muslim surgeons, nurses, police officers battled to save lives. We saw the humanity as taxi drivers, as restaurant owners, as people opened their homes. We saw that when they deliberately attacked children in Manchester. And the people of Afghanistan have known for a very, very long time what it feels like when bombs fall from the sky, what it feels like when your children pick up bombs that are disguised as toys. When you see that when IED devices are blown up and your children are quite often, more than often, the victims of these outrages. And what they wanted people in this country to do was to be blinded with outrage. They wanted us to forget our humanity, they wanted us to lash out, and they want this country to be dominated by fear and by a cycle of revenge and by escalation of conflict. And as the people of Afghanistan sadly have known to their own cost, this will never work. And it's no wonder that ISIS hate our values in this country. We should remember when the body of Aylan Kurdi washed up, a young refugee, 3-year-old, washed up on the Mediterranean beach, and how millions across Europe demanded that we open our borders and let in the refugees. It's no coincidence that literally within a week after that there was a terrorist attack, because they wanted us to shut our borders. They wanted us to dispense with our humanity, with our fear, and the time has actually come, I think, in this country for us to have the courage to ask the questions, even if we are shouted down by the media or by the politicians. And it makes me sick to hear Theresa May, the Prime Minister, when she talked about ideology and crying tears for the children who were massacred, when only a few weeks earlier she had been in Saudi Arabia selling weapons that would be bombing the country of Yemen and bombing their children, supplying weapons to the Saudi regime which sponsor the likes of ISIS, and have interfered in countries like Afghanistan for far too long. And of course, I say this, the Muslim community does have a responsibility to call out the terrorists and the extremists in our midst, but people should also remember that we have no immunity from bombs and from bullets. Our children, our families travel on the same transport, they use the same airports, buses and bridges, and we are just as likely to be killed by bombs or bullets. I also say this, that on the night of the horrific fire in Grenfell Tower, I put up on Twitter, as did many other people, the story, the heartening story that residents themselves spoke of when they said the words, "Thank God for Ramadan," because had it not been for young Muslims that had been returning home from the mosques as they ran from door to door, saving lives before the firefighters arrived, the death toll would have been far greater. And people said to me, "Why do you need to mention their religion?" And I said, we do need to mention the good deeds in our community, because so far too often, all we ever see in the newspapers, all we ever see on the TV and the radio stations and from street to street and community to community is when our community is accused of being apologists for terrorists or carrying out terror attacks. So I was heartened by what we saw, because I remember my daughter saying to me a few weeks ago, why after Manchester do Muslims kill children? And I was able this time to try and say, look, and point out they're a minority. Look, this is what the Muslim community were doing the night of the Grenfell Towers. And of course, many of those people in Grenfell Towers were refugees. Some were from Syria, some were from Afghanistan, and the people who had come to Europe who had lost everything they had. They'd come to Europe because Afghanistan is at war, because Syria is at war, because Somalia is at war, because Iraq is at war. And many of your young people here have known nothing about anything but war in Afghanistan. Rich Afghan politicians are free to send their children, free to send their families abroad to safety, but ordinary Afghans in this country and across Europe are being sent back. And the war in Afghanistan does continue to rage. Is that Asif trying to turn me off? Right. With the Telegram group, of course, controlling more territory than any time since 2001, the United Nations said that over 5,000 Afghan civilians were killed or wounded in the first half of 2016. Was a worth 6-month period since they started actually counting the dead in Afghanistan. The European Union wants a deal which allows for unlimited deportations, and that would mean that tens of thousands who are blocked in Greece would be deported. The German government is looking at deporting half of 80,000 Afghan refugees, asylum seekers in the country. Both sides are considering actually building an extra terminal in Kabul airport to take in deportation flights. And the Torkham border, which passes between Afghanistan and Pakistan, has already become busy with refugees who are being sent back. More than 10,000, 100,000 of the 2.5 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan were forcibly displaced and sent back last year. Afghanistan is the second biggest source of asylum seekers in this country last year. But I think it's time that politicians, whether it be in this country or throughout Europe, actually ask the question why Afghanistan is the world's biggest source of refugees. Even if the conflict has ended, I would say that those people who are in this country and in Europe have every right to build new lives in the West instead of being driven back to a hell that the West has created. And in this country, as for terror, I think we need a long-term solution, and as if I do intend to finish off now. I think we do want resources for the police to fight terror. We want security services to have the necessary powers to do their job, but if we really want to drain the cesspit from which extremists recruit, then we have to deal with our foreign policy that wines and dines the butchers of the Middle East, arms them and looks the other way, and which then leads to the terror attacks on an hourly basis, whether it be in Kabul, London or Manchester. Families no different to those in Manchester or London also die in Kabul and Lahore and Karachi. They also flee Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, and Somalia and Libya because they also want freedom. They also want security that we take for granted in this country. And I'd say this as a Muslim on the celebration of Eid, and as a human being I stand in solidarity with all victims of terror attacks, whether it be London, Manchester or Kabul, and I will not apologise for the acts of a despicable bunch of criminals. They are no more Muslims than the KKK represent Christianity, and we should all stand in solidarity with the victims of all attacks and make sure those responsible get justice. So I would say that the way we fight this is by celebrating, by uniting, and celebrating with our compassion and our humanity. So thank you.
چې روژه په ختمېدو شي د اختر غمونه راشي د بچو سیالۍ شروع شي د نیستۍ نه خبر نه وي بچي هر څه غواړي خو د پلار یې بېوسي وي یو بچی هم داسې نه وي چې خفه مرور نه وي که په 1000 بچي له اخلي نو جامې نیمګړې کېږي که دا دواړه ورته اخلي نو پیسې د څادر نه وي د جونګړو څه اختر وي یو افسوس یوه ژړا وي د دوی هغه ورځ اختر وي کومه ورځ چې اختر نه وي مننه.
And I walked in this hall without my Glengarry, and Anne said to me, "You're not fully dressed." I said, "Okay." So I put it on. But your pagdi definitely outbeats me, bro. I've known Asif for a long time, maybe 12 years. But it's been 12 years when I was in Afghanistan as well. Worked in many countries, including Palestine, and with my dear friend Pauline McNeil, MSP, sitting here, we traveled together. I often get asked, you've been to many countries and in disasters, wars, floods, and so on. Has there ever been an occasion when your life was in danger? And I always remember my life was in danger, very, very, very close to death in Kandahar. But not because of Afghani people. And also in Kabul as well. Because Kabul, 2 a.m., next building was hit with this precision bombing, and that was Al Jazeera office. And we were sleeping next door. Afghan people, I want to say something, and I want you to hear from your heart, because what I'm about to say, I mean it. And don't forget this. Having traveled to Mizar Sharif, Lashkargah, Kandahar, Pagman, Kabul, by road, and engaged with Afghani people, ladies working in the bread factory or the bakeries, and the tough men, 50 degrees plus, without any shelter, trying to rebuild what was destroyed in front of their eyes. And I came across children who said to me, "See these planes, these horrible noise. You may be scared, but to us is music. We are not scared of these bombs." To me, having traveled in 27 countries, I believe Afghanistan and the Afghani people are the most toughest nation I have ever come across. Tough physically, tough emotionally, tough mentally as well. Because the torture and the pain, just my brother Amir just mentioned, the pain which this nation has gone through, no other nation on this earth can bear it. This is who you people are. And I mean it. I just want to thank every one of you. Some of you I know personally. Every time we have had a function, a fundraising function, Scottish Afghan Society has always been there. Asif bhai, I've known him for a long time. You have always come, not only just physically, but also have shared your wealth as well. Whether it was for Sudan or Lebanon or Syria or wherever. I just want to thank every one of you and enjoy, inshallah. This is amazing. One Scotland, many cultures. I just love your banner. It really is. Puts everything in picture that this is who we are. This is what makes Scotland beautiful. It's people like yourselves. Thank you very much.
Eid Mubarak. I have to say, brothers and sisters, it is an honour to follow Habib Malik. There are not many places, as you've heard, that he has not been in the world. I was able to take him to Gaza, which is quite extraordinary, and it reminded me of when we entered Gaza and waited many hours where the bombers were literally flying overhead. I suppose you can imagine what it would be like to try to enter Israel and Gaza as a blonde woman and with 3 Muslim male friends accompanying me, but we managed to get in. And you might remember, Habib, on the way back, I was the last out, unusually. And anyone who's been to Gaza will know that it's an interrogation, not only when you enter, but when you leave. And finally, just as they were about to close the checkpoint, I was asked where I was born. I said, Paisley. Why do you want to know that? You would not possibly knowing where Paisley is, and for that he detained me a bit further, and Habib said, why did you have to go and say that? But tonight, brothers and sisters, I know we're here to celebrate at the end of the holy month of Ramadan, and may I say, as many others have said, the fullest respect and admiration for the Afghan community, what they bring to Scotland, and for Muslims all over Scotland, and the sacrifice that they have given through the holy month of Ramadan, I believe, is an example to us all. But of course, it would be wrong to miss an opportunity for us just to think about our brothers and sisters around the world. Amar Anwar's talked about some of the troubled spots that we fear for their innocent lives. Only this week, another 57 innocent civilians in Syria were bombed by the coalition as they fight against Daesh. We've got to remember that wherever we think about this fight, every single day there are innocent lives being lost as the superpowers fight for their interests in Syria. Only last night, to Channel 4's absolute credit, we saw the poor people of Mosul trapped, tens of thousands of them trapped in that region, trying to flee from more violence and more bombing. The forgotten people of Yemen, many people of Yemen are forgotten. The media sometimes forget that the poor people of Yemen have bombs dropped on them every single day. And I do want to mention the poor people of Gaza, as their electricity is now cut to daily 2 hours a day. There are many troubled spots, but I ask you, brothers and sisters, to think about the people of Gaza in this Eid. Still 80% of them rely on international aid, and Israel is trying to dismantle the agency, the only agency left in the world that looks after them. Their electricity is now down to 2 hours a day. There is no way in virtually and no way out. You know, there's so much to be done around the world, and I just want to finish on this, Asif, which is, I think many of us in this room believe there is a different way to run the world. We believe that there is probably an appetite for change around the world, and particularly amongst young people that we may have never seen before. After our celebrations are over, and we've had the lovely food provided for us by the Cabana restaurant, let us all fight for what we believe in, which is justice across the world, for everyone, for Muslims, for Christians, for every single human being, and let us argue for change in our own country, for a government that is not hypocritical, for a government with a different foreign policy that sees that our intervention in the world must be a peaceful one. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak. I was listening to the words of Habib Malik about the people and the country of Afghanistan. And along those lines, I have to say, it reminds me of an African proverb that says, when 2 elephants fight, who suffers the most is really the grass. Afghanistan is the grass under which, or above which, major military powers have waged war for over 100+ years. And the people of Afghanistan, although severely injured, largely martyred, and severely punished for crimes they never committed, have endured that century with great pride and resilience. When people come to this country as refugees from Afghanistan, from Syria, from other countries, the communities and the government should sit up and pay attention, because those people have a strength and a resilience that many in this country have never seen or had to endure. We should see the qualities of survival, the courage and the strength of the people who have suffered and endured and survived and traveled to come here as an absolute resource for the betterment of our society and for the strengthening of our culture and our community. We are one human family, very well represented in a city like Glasgow, where people are quite aware of the need to be active citizens engaged in a struggle for building peace and justice. These simple concepts do not come about on their own. We live in a world where war and occupation, killing, imprisonment, and suffering seem to come far more naturally than peace and justice. So when I look around this room and I see familiar faces who come out to the meetings, to the events, to the demonstrations, to the fundraising, I am thankful, because we are the people building that peace and justice. We are one human family. We are a global community of those who value a better world, of those who invest effort in making that possible. There are those who seek to divide Muslim from non-Muslim, and it's not a coincidence that the holy month of Ramadan has been a month marred with violence from so-called Islamists of ISIS, Daesh, and from right-wing neo-Nazis around the globe. The reason for this is that they are attacking Islam, allegedly under the guise of Islam in the case of Daesh, and from a neo-Nazi or fascist perspective across America and Europe. So for that reason, over the past 12, 15, now it's almost 16 years since 9/11, where my dear sister was in the underground station at the Twin Towers on her way to work after saying goodbye to her Saudi housemate, left the underground station about 6 minutes before the first plane hit the station, hit the tower, and her housemate was evacuated by firefighters in the midst of dust and smoke. The building between them and the Twin Towers collapsed a few days later, and their building was condemned. And my sister spoke to me and considered moving out of New York. And I said, "Where do you want to go?" She said, "Los Angeles." I said, "Please don't go to Los Angeles." Because New York City responded in a way that I think Glasgow would have responded as well. The people came together across all racial, ethnic, and religious boundaries and stood in peace and solidarity. Our slogan was, "Our tears are not a cry for war." How can killing be a response to killing? How can killing bring justice for murder? It cannot. Only the building of peace and justice can be an appropriate response to that. And that has been the dedication of so many around the world since then. In the face of the so-called war on terror, which has been the demonization of Muslims, has whipped up extreme levels of Islamophobia, has revitalized neo-fascism across Europe, and launched neo-Nazi parties to second and third place in electoral politics in 6 to 8 countries across Europe alone. These are dangerous times in which we live, but the solution lies in this room, and the solution lies in standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity with our Muslim sisters and brothers against all forms of violence and terrorism. The solution lies in the hearts and the minds of the people in this room. And I thank you for your efforts and your continued commitment to solidarity in breaking down the myths of scapegoating and demonization. Because this is the way forward. To be a conscious part of a global community of people building peace, unity and solidarity. Please never give up on the potential for that solution and that solution alone to bring about a better world. And I thank the Scottish Afghan Society for always being there and bringing that to Scotland and standing in solidarity on a global and international level. Long may we stand and soon may we achieve our goal. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
I will keep this very brief because I'm consciously aware that I stand almost literally between you and your food. So this will be brief. However, Assalamu alaikum and Eid Mubarak. As Asif said, I represent Safer Communities within Police Scotland. One of our functions is the prevention of crime, but also the promotion of community cohesion. As has been said by various speakers tonight, we've seen a series of horrific events over the last few weeks during the month of Ramadan, but we've also seen the response of communities and agencies throughout the UK and certainly here in Scotland. Communities absolutely, to me, defeat terrorism, the threat of terrorism, and also take the sting out of terrorism when, unfortunately, acts occur. And societies like the Scottish Afghan Society have, over the years, undoubtedly provided us with deep-rooted support in providing reassurance to communities and working with other communities throughout Scotland and promoting that sense of cohesion. But this is a party, a celebration, so I think we should also look forward to the future, and part of my function also includes positive action and recruiting. I see a lot of young people here today, and what I'll say is Police Scotland is absolutely looking to improve our profile in terms of representing our minority communities, many of which I can see here tonight. A lot of kids up the back making a lot of great noise, which I would encourage rather than suppress. And young people and children are the future of both our communities and also the organisation I represent. So absolutely, if you're interested in joining the police, helping us with our efforts, you're most welcome. Come and speak to myself, my colleague Shaheen, who is hiding up the back there. Knows Asif of old. He was a community police officer in the north of Glasgow as a young man, an absolute example of a minority community which has flourished within Police Scotland. He's now Chief Inspector, so just promoted just a few weeks ago, so well done Shaheen. And on that note, having embarrassed my colleague, I'll say thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We always say that the police in Scotland are very friendly, although we don't have to praise them too much. But they're very nice, very approachable. They're not like the police in our countries and in elsewhere, where you approach them and they beat you and demand money from you. But we appreciate their services to our community in general, also the Scottish community, because every time there's a crisis, the policemen, the fire brigade, the fire people, the nurses, the staff, the hospitals, they're there to sacrifice their lives for us and to keep us safe. We're sitting here safe, it's due to the police and the government here. So thank you very much for the hard work. Thank you. Finally, I would like to introduce Hamid Mahbub, who has traveled from Manchester to perform. If you haven't seen any Afghan music, so today is your chance. He's quite a young, good-looking man. Sadly, he's married. And he's going to perform for us. The first song is that My Dearest Afghanistan. That's his first clip, a very patriotic song.
Marhaba.